EverQuest 2 originally launched in 2004 by Sony Online as the sequel to EverQuest. It promised at the time next generation graphics, modern combat that was a bit like World of Warcraft, but worse, and more solo friendly style of play. And voice acting, so much voice acting.
Lucan Delia is his name. He is an overlord. He is a tyrant. He's a dictator.
EverQuest in 2023, well...
Do not challenge my authority, citizen. In Freeport, the Overlord's word is law.
You're on fire. But I wanted to jump in and give it a shot. A game that I played for quite a few years back when I first moved away from EverQuest to EverQuest 2. So I guess I didn't move too much, but EverQuest 2 had its own unique take on the world of Norath. And I wanted to kind of revisit it and see if it is still worth your time to either return or start a new adventure in EverQuest 2 in 2023. Well, it seems we have a problem right off the bat. I mean, I had to go with an Ixar. You can't not do an Ixar, right? Like you have in EverQuest, you kind of have to. But there's one distinct issue with the Ixar. You see, they seem to lack any discernible facial hair. They're completely smooth, like a Mr. Beast transition. And by that I mean jarring and numerous. We can't really call ourselves Redbeard Flynn. Ah, I know, Scalebeard Flynn. And so, our hero was created. Delving into EverQuest 2 for the first time in years, I made a conscious decision not to play the live game. In my return, I wanted something a bit more familiar. And so that is why, for my aging mind, I went with Varsoon, the time-locked expansion server. Essentially, the EverQuest 2 version of a progression server. Varsoon was heavily featured in the EverQuest 2 roadmap, so it seems like it's something that they want you to play, and I wanted to give it a shot. Varsoon is a server where essentially in set intervals, you gradually unlock more EverQuest 2 content to consume. This was ideal for me as one of the issues I had most with the current live game is just how bloated skills and stats are. The curve from level 1 to max is immense and daunting, and this kinda shrinks it down by over a decade at this point. Varsoon and progression servers in general add a softer landing for players coming into older games. Games like EverQuest 2. Games that have expanded and expanded and expanded. They just make it a little bit simpler to get in.
That's what she said.
Now, there is a short little mini tutorial, but we're going to skip past that because the first time you play through it, it's actually kind of fun. And if you're going to try the game, I want you to see that. But on the second, third, and 100th time, the nostalgia doesn't really work and it's just kind of boring and annoying. But our first impressions of EverQuest 2 beyond the nostalgia of the initial starting zone. Ah, yes, the tower, the tower of memories that I had when I was younger. This beautiful island of grass, and of course the residents, the bees. So my impressions were a bit mixed when I first loaded in. In 2004, the graphics were pretty amazing, coming from EverQuest and with the biggest competition being classic World of Warcraft. EverQuest 2 represented a shift toward higher fidelity, but that shift had a cost, a literal cost, because you needed a really good computer to run the game at the time. It's not really the case anymore, but it was an issue then. And now the graphics feel dated, lost in translation, as some of the art style didn't really age that well, at least in my opinion. But what the graphics lacked, the animations kind of made up for, and the animations have always been kind of a good point for EverQuest 2.
Greetings.
The animations just seem to have character. Even if some of them were pretty damn silly. EverQuest 2 is still showing its age, it never really reached the height of its predecessor, EverQuest. It's still currently behind EverQuest in numbers. Playing it in 2023 somehow feels a little bit older than EverQuest, but something has to be said about its resilience. While other iterations of EverQuest have come and gone, EverQuest 2 has maintained a fan base, a strong fan base that loves the game. You may be part of that fan base that absolutely adores this game, and it has its very good points. EverQuest 2 has survived, and in some ways it has thrived. It's been launching expansions each year and more recently been delving into the potential gold mine that is progression. Varsoon, the server that I tried, is one of its most popular servers, and later this year we'll be getting another TLE, this one PvP focused. As we made our way around the nondescript island, I was reminded of some of the lore that brought us to this point, a divergence from the original EverQuest storyline, a divergence that stretches back to the plane of time. Essentially, it is a split in the timeline of EverQuest, a alternate universe, so to speak, where you were moved back in original EverQuest to before Plane of Time happened. Not so in EverQuest 2. In EverQuest 2, you have angered the gods so much by killing their avatars in the planes that they essentially just f***ed off, kind of. Leaving Nora to the mortals, and if there's anything mortals are good at, it's really screwing things up. Oh shit, that's not good. That's a problem. Long story short, some of the creations of the less friendly gods started a war before they left. Ogres were gifted intelligence by Ralos before he left, and they marched across Norath and besieged the bastions of Freeport and Kinos. It was in these wars that Lucan Delir, this dude, took control of Soulfire and came to power in Freeport. He's also apparently the spokesperson for Pizza Hut. So that's a very, very brief catch-up of some of the stuff that happened and why, if you're coming from EverQuest, EverQuest 2's world might feel so incredibly different. It's because it is. It has been rended by terrible earthquakes that destroyed many ancestral homes.
The world heaves with my torment. Its wretched kingdoms.
Oh shit, that's the wrong game. And the damn moon blew up. Sorry to the Vashir, at least for now. Many thanks to Catmandu26, who had a wonderful post kind of like going through the EverQuest 2 lore on the EverQuest 2 forums. Without that, this would have been a lot harder to gather this information, so thank you very much. But back to our hero Scalebeard and his noble quest, or ignoble, I guess, because I'm evil.
Evil.
And what else do evil lizard people do but try to feed small rodents to birds so you can kill the birds? I don't know, the quests on the newbie island are just kind of weird. I'm quickly reminded of just how different combat plays in EverQuest 2 compared to EverQuest. It's a lot more spammy, like it took the formula for World of Warcraft, tripled the number of skills, and reduced the cooldowns. I guess a little bit like Final Fantasy XIV without the cooldown reduction. But there's one bright side to it all. You see, I have Kevin. And Kevin destroys foes with his interpretive dance. For most of my first impressions, I was more of a pet to Kevin than vice versa. All hail Kevin. The vast majority of my damage seemed to come from the little skeleton with moves like Jagger. There were several times where I would send my pet to kill one creature only to have him finish, kill another creature, knit a sweater, build a fire, make some s'mores, and come wrap me up in a cozy little cocoon while he finished off the creature I'd barely dented. Essentially, I did nothing. Kevin did it all. This is also where I began to see some of the distinct differences in combat between this game and its predecessor. Necromancers, which have damage over time spells, are incredibly potent in EverQuest 1, as time to kill is longer. In EverQuest 2, where combat is more spammy, some of my spells felt mostly useless, and that wasn't just because Kevin was a total f***ing Chad. We eventually migrated from the tutorial island over to Freeport, where we found out we've been assigned an inn room that we have to pay for. It was with hope in our hearts, or ribcage in the case of Kevin, that we made our way to what we hoped would be a wonderful place to rest. The inn itself seemed nice enough, friendly patrons, someone guarding the door, a distinct lack of rodents. I'm sure it will be absolutely it'll just be wonderful. It'll be nice. I mean, okay, so it's got room for stuff. Like there's room for activities. There's at least that, not a ton of room, but still room. And it just needs a little bit of the warmth to it, a little bit of a decoration. See? That's all it needed. It's perfect now. EverQuest 2 has one of the most extensive instant housing systems I've seen in any game, with thousands of items to add in your home. Player crafted items, trophies, drops, all kinds of things you can add to really make your own creations. It took some of the best parts of Ultima Online's home decorating, threw it in an instance, and made the interface to decorate simple and easy to understand. I've seen some absolutely incredible home creations, and most of the homes are freely available for in-game currency, though there are some premium ones. This is perhaps one of the most underrated features of EverQuest 2. It's one that is deserving of being highlighted if this is your sort of thing. The decoration in this game is really good. But alas, Kevin and I couldn't stay in our cozy dregs as much as we wanted to. We needed to set out. We needed levels, we needed gear, we needed the
Viscera of our enemies and the lamentations of our loved ones.
As any necromancer would. I should play a paladin the next time I do a game like this. That took us from quest to quest running about the city. These quests provided some lore, but they were ultimately extremely dull, to put it mildly. It led to a couple minor skirmishes and clicking on collectibles and spraying the will of Swamp Thing. Fuck. I meant Kazakh Thule. It's Kazakh Thule, the will of Kazakh Thule. The collectible quests are a gripe of mine that aren't limited to EverQuest 2. I've never been a fan of running around in circles trying to find items where the first 4 out of 5 were easy to discover, but the 5th and final one has yeeted itself into the Bermuda Triangle and the previous 4 do not f***ing respawn. Lord of the Rings Online does this and it's just really annoying. But thankfully EverQuest 2 provides some freedom not present in a lot of other MMOs. If you don't want to do a quest, don't do it. There are several ways to level in EverQuest 2. You can find quests all over the place, or you can just kill creatures directly for experience. Questing is extremely beneficial and one of the most efficient ways to level, but you can just straight up murder as well. I say one of the most efficient ways because by far the most efficient way is to enlist Ion Blaze. To mentor you and destroy an entire zone to get you experience while he's at work. The mentor system in EverQuest 2 is a blessing and a curse. It provides a way for players to mentor down and get experience with you, but if they're significantly higher than you, well, it's kind of like glorified power leveling session. I sped from level 12 to 20 in just about an hour with Ion Blaze, while the previous 12 levels had taken several hours while I studiously completed quests. The addition of drops randomly from creatures and chests as well as from names had me kitted out in some pretty decent gear as well. I even got a few spell upgrades which come in handy in EverQuest 2 because they use a tier system for their abilities and spells where you can upgrade your skills using crafted upgrades or dropped upgrades while always seeking the alluring master chest which drops the highest tier group of gear and spells. In total, I spent a few weeks in EverQuest 2, taking my time and playing in stints of about an hour to a few hours at a time. Much of it felt like the game I'd left behind. Combat is still pretty spammy, the game has aged, but there's familiarity to the world. Locations, abilities, NPCs, and characters are all part of what makes the game appeal to fans of EverQuest lore. I didn't get to it, but one of the coolest features from the original game that carried through several expansions was the addition of things called heritage quests. Big quests that eventually end up in getting souped up versions of some of your favorite items from EverQuest 1. And with the Rise of Canarch expansion, perhaps the best EverQuest 2 expansion going live in August of this year on Varsoon, you'll even be able to obtain epic weapons for each class. Is it worth it though? Yes and no. It's an old game. If you're looking for something new, there might be better games out there, even old ones like this. But if you're wanting to return to EverQuest 2 and experience the golden age of its expansions, it's one of the best times to do so. Echoes of Fadeware and Rise of Canarch are two of, if not the best 2 expansions to me for the game. rich lore and story, and all before the skill and number bullet really gets out of control. You can play this game and enjoy it solo, grouped, or in a raid. There's a lot of options for you. And I didn't even touch on the crafting, which EverQuest 2 has one of the best crafting systems of any game. It has an active crafting system where essentially it's almost like being in combat with the crafting. You have to watch your progress bars, you have timed events that you have to respond to. It's really an active thing that you're doing to try and not just succeed in crafting, but actually make things better as you do it. And it's a separate level up system, completely separate from your regular experience system. There was tons of content for you to explore in EverQuest 2, and honestly, if you're a fan of EverQuest 2 or you played it in the past, this is probably a great time to go jump back in. My name is Redbeard Flynn. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Please let me know down below what games you would like me to do a similar video on. Currently, I believe the next one that I'm looking at is going to be Star Wars Galaxies, as that won the vote. And to everyone who has commented Ultimate Online Outlands, that's coming up too, I promise. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.